U.S. Rangers open their bullets. The 75th Ranger Regiment teaches a secret survival technique. Soldiers learn to carefully open the cartridge case on the battlefield to access the nitro powder. This powder burns very hot and is highly flammable. It can easily be ignited in difficult and wet conditions. Now you know the secret survival technique from the U.S. Rangers. Cartridge case on the battlefield to access the nitro powder. This powder burns very hot and is highly flammable. It can easily be ignited in difficult and wet conditions. Now you know the secret survival technique from the U.S. Rangers. Cartridge case on the battlefield.
Hello, my friends. Today we're talking about some trash, and I brought it with me. Here it is.
Conditions. Now you know the secret survival technique from the U.S.
That's what you're looking at. That is trash. And we're going to talk about it. So welcome to the Bushcraft Bullshit episode 20. And for any newcomers to the channel, welcome to the Bushcraft Bullshit series here on the Bushcraft and Bullshit channel. My name is Anders. I'm your host for this evening. And on these episodes, I talk about things I hate about social media and how they filter through the lens of outdoors, bushcraft, and survival and spill into our lives and onto our screen. I talk about the content and systems that I dislike and that are in place in these social media platforms, and we filter it through perspective and jokes. Let's just say that. Today I'm talking about a very powerful tool, but in the hands of the wrong people is just plain bullshit. I'm talking about hooks. I'm talking about presenting information. I am talking about how to get your audience to stay. Today we are talking about it through the filter of this content. Now, don't get me wrong. This guy, he makes a lot of content and it's not all bad. Both German channels and English channels. And it's not all bad or hyperbolic or just, bait and hooks. He does make some very entertaining content, and I appreciate his original take on it with the AI kind of voiceover stuff. It's his own style. It's pretty original in the landscape of just copy and pasting and putting a thumbs up after each arts and craft bullshit survival hack out there. So I like that about him. Kudos to him. And he does show some useful techniques sometimes, a lot about fire, a lot about basic survival like cold and hot weather. So it's not all bad, but it seems that his hooks have gotten a bit crazy lately. And we're going to talk about a specific series he has on his shorts videos, shorts reels on his channel. And that is the U.S. Rangers do this and that. And that's the series where we talk about why U.S. Rangers bring this and that into the woods and why they have this and that survival technique. And what prompted to look at his channel on this episode was this reel, bringing special flammable glass and saying that U.S. Rangers do that. Well, so let's see what's that all about. U.S. Rangers bringing flammable glass into a combat or recon zone to make fire. But I digest. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll come to that video later in his response to my maybe critical view on the whole presentation of that. But I have gone through that series on his shorts page, and there are as I have counted 24 videos, starting from the first one he posted to this last one about the flammable glass. I'm really trying hard not to sound condescending, but damn. I'm going to try harder. I'm sorry. I'm going to try harder. Not all of his content is bad. We're going to take a look at his hooks and his claims that what U.S. Rangers or a branch of U.S. military does in survival and bushcraft situations. With the 75th Ranger Regiment breaking their apparently 22 caliber bullets open to use the gunpowder on the battlefield to make a fire. A U.S. Ranger making fire on the battlefield with this 22 caliber bullet. Seems pretty credible, right? The 75th Ranger Regiment does this and this and this. I couldn't find anything on them breaking apart their It's probably a well-known hack to get fire in a survival situation. I don't doubt that, but U.S. Rangers doing it, couldn't find anything about it. U.S. Rangers using this technique, find some, let me know. If you think it's BS, let me know in the comments. And then moves on to Special Forces carry pencil sharpeners to make tinder, to make fire. Again, making fire in maybe a combat situation seems weird. I'm not going to show everything, but let's just go through a lot of them. Oh yeah, Special Forces pee in a bottle to keep warm at night. British SAS carry soup. Yeah, probably in their field rations and all that. That's probably, yeah, okay. Not too unhinged. 75th Ranger Regiment carrying shoe polish because it's flammable to start a fire. Why would they carry shoe polish in a combat situation? The Rangers carry an empty lighter. Empty lighter hack, where they get sparks from the flint and all that. A lot of them is about fire, but why would they start a fire in a combat situation? This is how a U.S. Ranger uses a knife to split wood. U.S. Ranger carry plastic spoons for tinder. No, they do not. The U.S. Rangers mark one particular compartment of their bag with a red rope to identify first aid. Sounds pretty plausible. Yeah, I could see that. U.S. Ranger use hemp cord. I don't think they do. The U.S. Ranger attach a multi-tool saw to a bigger branch to get high dry wood off of bigger trees. Now, do they even carry a multi-tool? That seems far out already. U.S. Ranger uses a tuna can stove to light their to have a portable stove and to warm their soup. That seems fishy, my guy. U.S. Ranger carry nail polish to weatherproof matches. The only thing I heard is that the U.S. Navy carry nail polish. That's all I've heard, and I'm not judging. But I don't think U.S. Rangers do it. The U.S. Rangers carry tampons for tinder. But let's try to add some credibility to carrying a tampon. It wasn't for tinder, but I have heard. One of my trustees behind the channel has actually had combat experience. And he told me that back in the day they used to carry a tampon to plug a wound with. So U.S. Ranger carrying a tampon back in the day, that might have some credibility, but using it for tinder, new. A U.S. Ranger carry a plastic rubber band around the lighter so they don't have a gas leak in the pocket and run out of gas on the lighter. Come on, man. I'm gonna need a rubber band because I'm gonna run out of gas soon if this continues. U.S. Ranger carry wooden spoon not just for eating their soup on the battlefield, but also to light a fire with the shavings from it. No. U.S. Ranger use camo paint to make fire. U.S. Rangers use duct tape, form chopsticks so they can get stuff out of the fire. Oh man. I don't doubt that U.S. Rangers come into contact with some sticky situations, but duct tape, no. U.S. Ranger carry a funny little party straw so they can tap into some birch water. The only thing you're sipping on with a straw, my guy, is that YouTube Kool-Aid. U.S. Ranger carry lipstick to use for fire. Oh, they don't. This guy sells something called a Ranger lighter which is a kind of accessory to a big lighter. And on the keychain, it has small compartments so you can put some Vaseline, some cotton, and a space for your lighter in there. And the whole contraption is kind of called a Ranger lighter. That doesn't mean it has anything to do with a U.S. Ranger using this on a trip. And he just replaced the whole concept of the Vaseline and tinder in the Ranger lighter for lipstick to make it a bigger hook and bait for the audience. So that's complete horseshit. Soldiers can put a toilet paper roll in a can and douse it with alcohol to make stove fire to warm themselves with. Oh man. And then we come to it. The U.S. Ranger carry flammable glass to use in hard survival bushcraft situations when they need to use a fire. So apparently they just have a lighter and they set fire to the glass, which burns and burns and burns and burns. But hey, let's watch that whole thing because that is what prompted my whole investigation onto his reels here. So let's just see this from one end to the other. This is how US Rangers use glass to start a fire. Most people have never seen this before. A special military grade glass used in survival situations burns for over 10 minutes, hot enough to ignite wet wood even in rain or snow. hey, 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 let's break it down. You know what that glass is? Well, you can find it on Temu. Pretty cheap, like $1, and it's called ignition glass. And what is it? So it's an acrylic, PMMA. What is that? PMA acrylic is highly flammable, as you saw in his video. Well, it's an acrylic polycarbonate plastic, also known as lexan or plexiglass. Special fire glass, ignition glass is just plain old plexiglass. And military grade, that's just a way to dress up a sentence or a piece of gear so it sounds more durable and more fancy. What it really means is that that plastic is qualified by the US Navy to meet military specifications. So this glass is plexiglass. The military grade is just some empty words he can slap on because the military uses it. I'm gonna write a comment on that one. So I said, that's called ignition glass from Temu, or just plexiglass, pieces of plastic you bought for Temu for $1. Military grades are just words that mean nothing, and US Rangers don't do that. Lord Almighty, you really don't care about correct information anymore. And it seldom happens on these big channels that they comment or say anything about critical questions about their content. But he answered. Pretty gracious of him to answer because my question was critical. But does it burn? Does it burn even wet? Does it burn for minutes? Does it burn like fat water resin? All answers are yes, so the information about the product is correct. Your channel's mission is to show bullshit that does not work, right? My mission is to inform as many people with survival tips as possible. You can judge the presentation, but look deeper. I said, thanks for the answer. No, my channel is not about showing stuff that doesn't work. My channel is partly about bullshit, and lying to people about what US Rangers do is BS. It's getting worse, honestly, dude. Why present false information just to hook people? Like glass is interesting enough on its own, and all this hyperbole and misleading info is getting out of hand all across the board. I mean, in general on YouTube and in this genre, not just his specific reel here. It sure seems like it's about furthering your channel as not as much as about what is correct or a true representation of survival skills. And I stand by the last part of my second comment there. But I want, just before I move on to my last comment, I just want to focus in on my channel is not just, highlighting stuff that don't work. It's about, social media in general and people being more aware of the term media literacy. Spot when something is off or fake or done with kind of malicious intent to mislead people deliberately to get views and money from it. I think that's shitty. So that's what this part of my channel is about. It's also about skills and having fun outdoors. But he says you can judge the presentation, but look deeper. I did look deeper, dude. And yeah, the plexiglass burns. It doesn't make it special that you call it military grade. It doesn't make it cooler, and it's not very nice to say that U.S. Rangers do this because they don't. It's just untrue. So I did look deeper, and a lot of it is BS. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and it would be unfair if I didn't recognize that you probably do this, or as you said, you do this because you want to teach as many people about survival as you can. That's a fine line, man. That's a fine line. It can't be done without bullshit. But again, that's the system these kind of channels have to operate under. And it's choices they make, and I critique those choices because I think those are poor choices. And I don't have any reason to doubt his credentials as a survival instructor, which he also is, or a bushcraft instructor or something like that. He teaches people. But but I can say when stupid shit is stupid, and lying about stuff like this pretty stupid. And I stand by my long comment about furthering his channel in favor of actually representing true survival skills, and that's a pretty fluffy answer. I was like, okay, let's get some perspective here, because what's really going on? And then I just made a second comment without him replying. I said, look, you can forget the long answer before. I'm basically just baffled that it's necessary to tell an adult not to lie on the internet. And that was kind of that was the bottom line for me. That it's just a dude speaking bullshit about what U.S. Rangers do: lipstick and spoons and straws and plexiglass. I actually think we have a picture of the U.S. Ranger backpack right here. Ah, I wonder if they ever look at that content and it's like, and maybe just have a moment of perspective and clarity and just think, God damn, this is stupid. But more often than not, they don't. They just post it. I've said it before, if you are confident enough to post that bullshit, I am confident enough to make stupid jokes about it. I've talked a lot of shit now, and I'm gonna rep some people I think are worth checking out. I'm gonna rep two people in this. I'm gonna rep Donnie Dust. He knows survival. He knows his primitive skills. Check him out. I'm gonna rep Marshall Bushcraft here because he has a lot of funny and insightful gear reviews on everything from cookware to fire steels to water filtration to tips and tricks and skills. So he's also worth checking out. Let's combat some of this BS there's out there, and let's try to end on a joke on this BBC episode. The only thing more full of shit than this guy's short form videos is the US Rangers backpacks. Thanks for watching BBC number 20. I'll see you later.